All right, all right, all right. Well, as people start rolling in, actually, let me go ahead and drop a link to this. Hey, Jose, how you doing? As people start rolling in, I'm going to say hello. Hi, guys. Happy Tuesday. Is that a thing? Do people say happy Tuesday? Happy day. Hi, Martisha. How you doing? All right, let me copy this invite link real quick and just drop it in the community so that people remember that we're hanging out today. Give me just a second, guys, while I take care of that little bit of housekeeping. We are live right now talking about mistakes people make with their resumes. Join us here. There we go. All right. That said, while I'm posting this, guys, let me know if you feel like, give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. I don't know if that's easy to do, but say me if you feel like you're making mistakes with your resume. Drop that in the comments in the chat if you can, and hopefully the chat wasn't disabled on this one, which it was on another one, which was strange. And I just want to say I see someone raising their hand, basically saying me. Attendees can chat with everyone. Okay, I fixed the chat. I don't know what's happening with our settings, but I did fix the chat, so you guys should be able to communicate with us. Hey guys, if you have not met me, my name is Livria Jones. I am the founder of Quit Commuting, and I run the Quit Commuting Academy as well. It's so important that we have this space so that you guys can get more information, more assistance, more help, getting more freedom and flexibility into your lives. And so the purpose of this is so that you guys every Tuesday can get a masterclass on some information that can help you land remote work, improve your life-work balance situation. On Wednesdays, I do a live Q&A as well. And just a note, tomorrow's Q&A, I'm gonna have to move that to 6 p.m. Eastern time, which will be 5 p.m. Central. So I'll make that note in the community as well. And then don't forget, tomorrow afternoon at noon, we have a recruiter roundtable with Power to Fly. So you guys can actually meet recruiters from Power to Fly and hear them talk about some of the positions that they have open right now that they're hiring for. And just so you know, they hire people from all over the world. They don't care where you work from. This is a work from anywhere company. So if that's what you're looking for, you need to show up tomorrow at 12, but don't worry, if you miss it, there will be a replay as well. Ideally, you can be there so that you can actually interact with the recruiters, because recruiters are like the IG models of LinkedIn. Everybody up in their DMs, you know what I'm saying? Everybody is in their DMs trying to get at them. So here's an opportunity for you to actually get to connect with them. All right, today, that's enough housekeeping stuff. Oh, one more thing. I did post that I'm hiring. I'm looking for someone to manage emails. There is a post in the community there. If you're interested, it's 5 hours a week. So it's just kind of like extra money. If anyone wants something extra, it also could be a good foray into doing email support and chat support. So as a job or as a freelancer. So consider that. If you're interested, shoot me an email at admin@quitcommuting.com. Then today's session is with my girl, Chelsey. You know something? I'm going to send you there's something I would love for you to do with us on a regular basis. So
okay.
Put some pressure on. So Chelsey does every once in a while, when we do the Quit Commuting conference, she does these live resume reviews where we'll get a group of people together and she'll pull their resume up on camera and like go through it and give them feedback about their resume. And it's always so spot on. I've learned so much sitting in on those sessions with her. I'm gonna see if I can convince her to just like do that with us once a month. We'll see. We'll see. I had this idea today and I was like, I gotta email you about this. Somebody say, yes, please. All right, so we'll talk about offline, but today Chelsea's gonna break down for you guys what are some of the biggest mistakes that people are making in their resumes. And you guys may see some of these mistakes that you're making that you can then fix. I don't want you guys beating yourself up about those things if you are doing them. This is an opportunity to learn and pivot, right? Learn, pivot, and tweak. This is not an opportunity to be like, oh my God, I've been doing it all wrong. This is an opportunity to get it right, okay? And I'm gonna let Chelsea introduce herself and then get the party started. And I'm going to get off camera and mute so that you guys can hear from an expert, because I love to tell you guys, I got some good resume ideas and tips. I am not a resume expert though. That's not my lane. Which is why I defer to the experts like Chelsey. All right, Chelsey, it's your show. Introduce yourself to the people and do your thing. I'm going to go off camera.
Thank you. All right, Tia. So, hey everyone, thank you so much for joining. I'm Chelsey Opariato, and I am, I guess as Labria put it, an IG model for LinkedIn. So my day job is recruiting. I've been doing it 7 years. I've hired hundreds of people for companies like Uber, Amazon, Discover, Blue Cross Blue Shield, McDonald's Corporation. And I'm also the owner of Not Your Mother's Resume. So I write resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn profiles. So I'll be talking to you today about typical resume mistakes that job seekers make. I'm going to share my screen and have a little presentation for you. And I was thinking, so I'll be doing a presentation here, but if there's time at the end after the Q&A, maybe I'll do like a couple resume reviews. So if anyone that is here live is interested, please feel free to shoot me an email, hello@notyourmothersresume.com. With your resume, put resume review in the subject line, but only if you're comfortable with me showing your resume here. And of course, this will be recorded, so people will be able to view it later and hear my critiques. And it will be an honest critique. It might be a little bit of a roast. I didn't name my business Not Your Mother's Resume because I'm like super nice and friendly. So,
Don't let her scare you. She is nice and friendly. She is honest and to the point though. Like she will tell you for real. Like she's not gonna pretend like this is not a challenge, right? She is nice though. Don't let her fool you. She's just direct. If you get your feelings hurt easily, you have a problem with people being direct, you might be challenged because she is direct.
Oh, I'm just kidding. It'll be constructive feedback. So again, hello@notyourmothersresume.com. That's all one word, no, what is this called? Apostrophe. So let's get into common resume mistakes that job seekers make. So number one, the resume is not targeted. So if I find your resume on the street, pick it up with no other context, I should be able to tell what you do for a living, what you're good at, and what types of jobs you're looking for. That's how targeted your resume should be. It should require no other context. It shouldn't require interview. It shouldn't require sending it to a specific job. Your resume alone should be so focused on your target that a complete stranger can tell what you're looking for. So I have an example of a resume here. I would love if you're here with us live to drop in the chat what type of job you think this person is looking for. You might be thinking, Chelsey, I can't read it that well right now. I need a minute to look through it. Forget that, because recruiters really don't read resumes. It's just a quick skim. So based on your quick skim, if you could tell me what you think this person is targeting in the chat. And just to double down on that, you might have heard like a 6-7 second scan that recruiters do. That is very true. Recruiters look at hundreds of resumes a day. So it's just a quick scan. If the person's not a fit, they just move it aside after a scan. So if you've been looking at the resume, you might guess that this person is looking for, hold on, I have something in the chat, healthcare, medical industry. That's a great guess. You might guess they're looking for like an RN position or case manager, something in the medical industry. So I'm going to hop over to the next slide. What do you think this person is looking for? What type of position based on your quick 6-second scan? Okay, project manager. So this resume is for the same person as the last slide. So this person is a nurse who is looking for a project manager role. Now, this might seem just crazy, but if you're looking for a job that job title should be somewhere on your resume. And I don't care if you've never held that job title before, it really needs to be somewhere on your resume. So I love headlines. You can add that job title without fabricating on your resume to look like you've held it before. That's the perfect place to add the context of that job title. So in this new revised resume that I created for the RN, I added certifications here to the top and it's bolded. This isn't a cookie cutter template. This doesn't mean everyone's certifications belong at the top, but for this candidate with very little project management experience, that's where it goes. We also added some consulting experience. Her uncle owns like a small tech company and she manages some projects for him. So guess what? That's good enough. We're adding it as a job. The RN experience is very summarized. You might have noticed on the last slide, this person had a 3-page resume. When you're switching careers, you really want just your transferable skills there. So I didn't include a lot of the like bedside, hands-on nursing, and really just included times where she led projects or like streamlined processes. She found something that was taking too long or taking too much money or not really working for the patient, and she made it better. And that's all I included. And I included project management language. So really no reason for a 3-page resume if you're switching careers and you only have a small amount of relevant experience. So the second mistake that job seekers make is the resume is not accomplishment focused. So your resume should not be a laundry list of things that you have done. It should not be a lot of responsible for, and then just lists of things. Your resume should show the impact that you made on a company. After I read your resume, I should know how you made that company, that department, that team better. So you want to have an accomplishment focused resume. Okay, could not for the life of me figure out how to make the second bullet point come when I wanted to. So you're just going to see both at the same time. So I'm going to do a before and after. So the first bullet point is managed technical projects. So sometimes what I like to do is read a bullet point and then say, so what? It needs to be either relevant or impressive. So I say managed technical project. So what? So what does that mean? Did you open the website and create different like HTML coding that took you an hour? Is that the technical project that you managed? Like, what difference did it make? How did that make things better? So we pulled out information on how it made it better. And this technical project minimized reporting errors 4% by managing a $300,000 software implementation project impacting 500 internal users. So the second bullet point shows the accomplishment, which is minimized reporting errors 4%, and it shows the scope. This wasn't just some small project that they did in a few hours. This was a $300,000 project that impacted 500 employees. So accomplishments and metrics go hand in hand. Anytime you can include percentages, numbers, dollar amounts, that is perfect. Someone asked, sorry, not someone, Marjorie asked in the chat, how do you get metrics? Can this be fudged? So you get metrics from, a lot of roles have like goals that you have. That's a great way to get metrics. If you're managing a project, you would know how much that project costs. So that's a metric you can add. You get metrics from like doing different reports. As far as can it be fudged, you can make a reasonable guess. So say you're not responsible for the budget, but you can make a reasonable guess based on the information that you have that it was probably around a $500,000 project. Then you can say, well, since I'm not really sure, maybe I'll put 450 plus. Maybe I'll make a reasonable guess, because guess what? Like references might be checked, but no one is going to say, hey, did Labria manage? Like how much was the budget of the project that she managed? No one is going to really check for you like that. Labria, do you have something to add?
I do actually, and it's a good question. I think what people don't realize sometimes is that you can come to the metrics on your own as well. So one of the things that's on my resume is that I reduced processing time for a report that we used to build. I automated a report and reduced the processing time from 4 days to 4 hours, right? So it doesn't, don't feel like the number has to be a dollar amount or percentage. It could be that you process, let's say you process contracts, right? Let's say you process on average 100 contracts a week, right? So keep in mind, the number does not have to necessarily be a dollar amount or a percentage. Those are the best. Dollar amounts are great, but also consider what you do on your day-to-day, right? And if you've improved something, you can start to build a KPI or what's called a key performance indicator to say, well, I know this typically takes most people a week, but I was able to fix the process and make it only take 2 days. And so that's a percentage right there. So you could say, I improved the process by 50%, improved the time or throughput by 50%, or I took a 5-day process and made it a 2-day process. So keep that in mind. And I think to your point as well, you can always find out the numbers too. You can ask your project manager, what was the project budget or what was the spend on this, or pay attention to the reports that come out from your company as well. But I love the way you worded this, a reasonable guess, a reasonable estimate. Literally nobody's going to say, could you show me the detail behind these metrics?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say go ahead and lie, because someone may ask you how you did this as well. And you need to be able to explain that. So I think a reasonable estimate is a great approach.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I have one more example here. So in this bullet point, they said they created new hire onboarding. Again, I asked, so what? So what does that mean? Did you open up a PowerPoint, create something like what I have here? Did it take you half a day? Did you train like 3 people on it? Like, what does that mean? So in this case, the after is minimize gap in new hire productivity from 1 month to 6 days by creating first onboarding plan and company history. Materials were leveraged to acclimate 50 employees a month. So this is a big deal. The new hires were sitting around for a month, not being productive. They didn't have any onboarding plan. People were coming in and just chilling. They were like, hey, why don't you shadow someone? They weren't productive for an entire month. So this person, maybe in this case, they would have loved to include the metrics on how much money was saved. Because of course, when someone's not productive, that's money. But maybe they couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out like what their salaries were and make a reasonable guess. So they included the metric in time. So this is an accomplishment. Minimize gap in new hire productivity from 1 month to 6 days. And this is how they do it, by creating first onboarding plan in company history, and then including the 50 employees per month is just adding to the scope, because it's a difference in creating a new hire onboarding to onboard like 2 people and then it's just left in the dust somewhere. This shows you that probably hundreds of people went through this new hire onboarding. It was good enough to reuse over and over again every month. And Marjorie, we kind of answered this question, but I was going to say, I know some people are thinking, Chelsey, I don't have any measurable accomplishments. So we covered some of that. If you don't have like very specific goals, there's other things you can add. Like we talked about numbers, or you can make a reasonable guess about if you improve something and now it takes less time, like how much time was saved. But really an accomplishment is anything that you made better. So an accomplishment can be like, let's say there's some approval process that goes to leadership, and then it goes to someone else, and then someone else, and no one really remembers how it works. And sometimes it takes a long time, and then the customers have to wait weeks to get approved. If you go around and you improve that approval process, that is an accomplishment. And you might not have a dollar amount or a percentage to add to it, but you can say something like you condensed a 12-step approval process to 3 easy steps and improved customer experience. So that's an accomplishment. And there are some accomplishments that truly don't have any numbers or metrics to add to it, and that's fine as well. Towards the end of this presentation, I'll show you an example of a resume I wrote, and one of this person's accomplishments is really just improving communications. He works for a company where the departments didn't really talk to each other that well. So that was his main accomplishment. So we can talk about how that looks like, because there really aren't any metrics or numbers to add behind that. Labria asked, what if you didn't necessarily improve anything? You just did your job well. What if you didn't improve anything? You just did your job well. So sometimes I think of like people who are in, let's say, customer support. Like, you don't have a job to where you necessarily are going out and like making things better. You really just have a queue and you help the customers, and then that's what you do. How can you differentiate your resume from the worst person in the department's resume? Like, let's say that person that you think of and you're like, how have they worked here this long? They should not be here. Your resume and that person's resume should not read the same. So what do you approach differently? What do you do differently than that person? Are customers calling back and asking for you by name? That's an accomplishment. No, you didn't approve anything, but you're hand selected for some of the most, challenging customer questions. That's an accomplishment. There's no metric behind it and it's not improving anything, but that is an accomplishment. You can also compare like productivity, even if management doesn't really care how many calls you take a day. Let's say you take 15 calls a day and you notice that everyone else takes less. Go back through the last few days and see how many calls does everyone else take. You notice the average is 10, boom. You take 15 calls and everyone else takes 10, make that a percentage. You didn't improve anything. It's not really a metric that was measured, but it's an accomplishment nonetheless. Labria added, your customer service rating would be a good one to include in that example. Exactly. Your customer service rating, if there's a blind survey, your SLA, sometimes you have to resolve something within 24 hours. So even if it's like not a big deal that the business makes it or measures you on, you can say you have 100% compliance to SLA. I will say sometimes I see resumes with very little context. So let's say you have about 93% compliance to SLA. And that's great because you know how difficult it is. And the SLA is just not really in line with what it should be. And it was kind of just made up by someone who doesn't really work in customer support. So you're like, yes, 93% SLA. Let me put this on my resume. This is an accomplishment. Well, we're not your coworkers and we don't know if that's good or not. So make sure when you add metrics, if it's appropriate, add context. So you would say that you achieved a 93% SLA, and then you might put 5% higher than team average or 10% higher than goal. Something that gives us context to show us that it's good, because I shouldn't be wondering if 93% is good, because in other companies, well, maybe I have a background where SLA is 100%, like it's a very reasonable SLA. So I'll read 93% and I'll say, doesn't sound that great. Okay, so number 3, my favorite, the resume is boring. This is a mistake that job seekers make with their resume. I don't know who told this lie that you have to describe yourself as like a team player and a hard worker, and you have to use like black and white and very, robotic language, but you really don't. There's a lot you can do with your resume these days. So what I'm going to focus on for this section is the summary. So your resume should have a summary at the top of the resume that kind of brands you. Again, if I pick up your resume on the streets, not only should I have an idea of what type of jobs you're looking at, I should kind of have an idea of who you are. Like, it should be your personal brand. So I should have an idea of how you talk and like what you're good at, what your brand is. So here's an example of what I would consider a boring summary: exceptional problem solver, skills at creative thinking. Problem solver has unfortunately pretty much lost all of its meaning. It's pretty cliche for resumes. I would say, like, if anyone can have it on their resume, you don't want it on yours. Like, my son could make a resume that says he's a problem solver, skilled at creative thinking, and he's 12, and he would not be a good employee. So you don't want your resume to look like his. So you're going to set yourself apart and you're going to say something on your resume that not everyone can put on there. So instead of saying I'm a problem solver and think creatively, this person is going to say, this is again the summary. So they're going to start it with tech-savvy professional delivering fresh perspective and approach to uncover solutions to complex technical problems, known for preventing disruptions in multi-million-dollar enterprises. So it's essentially the same thing. They uncover solutions to complex technical problems. That is solving problems. Creative thinking, they deliver a fresh perspective and approach. So it's communicating the same thing, and it's not using the cliches, because really cliches won't even be read. No one in the history of, we'll say, the last 20 years has looked at someone's resume and said, they're a problem solver. Oh my gosh, we have to call this person. I have never, we just really need a problem solver. That doesn't happen. Problem solver basically means nothing at this point. Okay, detail-oriented and analytical. So same thing here. Analytical is fine, but really detail-oriented is the cliche here. So this person is going to say something that not everyone can say. They're quality-focused analysts, championing data integrity and upholding 100% accuracy score in 12 consecutive quality audits, 5% higher than team average. I don't think I've meant to put the word score here. Sorry, I created this presentation today. So anyways, this is saying that the person is detail-oriented because it takes someone detail-oriented to have a 100% accuracy in 12 consecutive quality audits. And just in case the reader doesn't know that's impressive, they let you know that it's higher than the team average. Not everyone has 100%. So 100% is kind of tricky sometimes. It's weird, but I think there's a psychology thing where 100% almost seems less impressive than like 99% or a different percentage. Would be curious to know if that's a real thing, but basically when people read 100%, they might assume, oh, so it's easy. Okay, you got 100%. I bet everyone got 100%. So it's helpful to add context. And then hard worker, skilled at using technology. Hard worker is my least favorite resume phrase. I'll literally die. Like, you offer so much more than being a hard worker. And again, no one reads a resume and says, oh my gosh, this person's a hard worker, call them right now. So the way this person communicated it, well, I wrote it, is #1 ranking technical support representative known for surpassing productivity goals 20% by resolving 10 plus help desk tickets per day. So obviously this person is a hard worker because they're surpassing their productivity goals. They really only need to do about 8 help desk tickets per day, but they exceed that 21 or 20%, and they rank #1 within the department. So they're a hard worker and they're skilled at using productivity. Okay, you guys are asking for a list of these phrases. I never thought about making a list of these phrases. I guess I see them all the time. These are the main ones that get on my nerves, but let me see if I can think of a list. Team player is another one. I don't think I made a slide for team player. No, I didn't make a slide for team player. So yeah, before you add team player to your resume, that's another cliche. So let's talk about what you've done in teams to show that you're a team player. Like, does that mean you mentored people? Like, did you upskill teammates through mentorship and coaching? If you're like actually a literal manager, you should have a lot to talk about your leadership skills and like creating teams and team bonding and improving morale. If you're an individual contributor, but you work on a lot of projects that involve people from other departments, you might focus on like cross-functional team collaboration and what you've accomplished from that front. So team player is another one I avoid. Those are the big 4: detail-oriented, hard worker, team player, and whatever the first one was. Problem solver, yeah. Let me see. Someone asked if that was a pie chart. Oh, okay, hold on. So, oops. Okay, so here's some examples of some resumes I have written. So I want to talk about like what are good signs on these resumes. So we went through, things that are red flags or common mistakes. So I want to show you what are green flags on a resume. So Ray here we don't have to guess what she's looking for. She's a senior executive and she's looking for operations and strategy roles. So this headline here, again, one of my favorite things to have on the resume. This here, someone asked if this is a pie chart. So this resume was created in Microsoft Word. I would caution you against using heavily designed resumes that you find in Canva or like templates that you find on the internet, because a lot of times they're not ATS compatible. The applicant tracking system is it's just the software tool that recruiters use to like look for your resume and like store all the resumes and candidate details. And a lot of I don't think any Canva resume is ATS compatible. So your resume doesn't have to be boring because Word has a lot of things that you can use in it. So this here, it's technically called a shape in Microsoft Word. So I created a shape and put some words in it here. So technically the applicant tracking system can't read it, but it doesn't affect the rest of the resume. So all that will happen is that the ATS won't know that your resume says purpose, process, people. So I just put words there that don't need to be picked up by the ATS, because the ATS is looking for keywords that align with the role. I just went way left. I didn't even intend on talking about the applicant tracking system. Please let me know if you have questions, because I did not prepare an ATS slide, but I'm happy to talk about it. Back to the resume and like the green flags on it. This person has a summary that is very unique to them and what she's good at. She has some of her best attributes here at the top. So you'll notice, well, since I've been recruiting for 7 years, I know how like recruiters' eyes work. You might notice that the red letters are popping out at you because they're bolded and they're in a different font and they're a little bit bigger. So this top section here will get a lot of attention, as well as these bolded parts throughout. So that's another green flag for this resume. Their accomplishments are very easy to see. And you might also notice that the language used really sets up their brand. You can tell this is not your average executive. She is enabling CEOs, which she nicknamed Chief Everything Officers, to fire themselves and scale their business and save time. So that's how she described herself to me. Instead of making it super resume speak and boring, it's still memorable. It kept her personality in it because that's part of her brand. The other thing I highlighted here was this key competency section. So that's another green flag on a resume. There are keywords that you will want to include on the resume that's on the job description, again, for the applicant tracking system. So your resume has 3 audiences. The first is the applicant tracking system, just looking for keywords. So you want to make sure that your resume has the same words that's in a requirement section on the job description. The second audience member is the recruiter. The recruiters are really just looking, is this person a fit on the basic level? Like, do they have a similar job title? Do they have the number of years of experience I'm looking for? Really just looking for those basic puzzle pieces. The third audience member is the hiring manager. So that's the person who will be your manager if you get this role. And they care about things like saving money and the scope that you worked on. So a lot of the details are for the hiring manager as well. No audience member is more important than the other. So you don't want to write your resume, say for the applicant tracking system, just really boring and full of keywords and black and white. You really want to consider that actual human people will look at your resume. So make it something to look at as well and include like your accomplishments. And then the other thing I highlighted here, so I wanted to point out, typically resumes go back 10 to 15 years. That's like the rule. However, senior executives typically have closer to 20, 25 years of experience. So their resumes can go back farther. In this case, her experience past the last 10 years was not that relevant. So you kind of have to make this decision yourself. Think about the interviews that you go to and think, do I ever get asked about this role in interviews? And do I have interesting stories to tell from that time? If the answer is no, you either don't include it on your resume or you summarize it. This is in an early career section. We don't have the red font. We just have 3 bullet points, just really summarized. Also with education, you'll notice we don't have years. We took out things like she was on the volleyball team and like some scholarships she got. Her education is from 15 plus years ago. So those details are no longer relevant. You just have a simple education section. Here's another example resume. We'll talk about green flags. Looking back on it, I wish I didn't choose 2 senior executives, but I did. So again, this resume will go farther back than, say, if you are like at the mid-level range or manager, you might want to stick to 10, 15 years. But some green flags we have are this headline here. We brought his most impressive experience and like what sets him apart, his branding statements here to the top. We have key competencies to add in keywords that just didn't fit super well within the resume. Like for instance, the phrase budget management. Within the resume, we might have said managed, I don't know, $20 million budget. But if in the job description, it literally says budget management verbatim, we'll want that phrase verbatim in the key competencies. And then a green flag within the resume is a lot of accomplishments. So apologies if you can't see it super well, but I've bolded the front of the bullet points with the main accomplishments. And as promised, I'll show you some accomplishments that don't have numbers attached to them. So the first bullet point under the second job talks about unifying IT silos. So with this company, there was a lot of departments. They didn't work super well together. People would just kind of throw something over the fence, like, oh, that's the finance team's fault, like whatever, I'm not dealing with it. So in this case, there were 3 IT teams that didn't work well. So he talks about how he unified those silos by mobilizing a cross-functional team of senior executives to form a working group that minimized costly miscommunications by joining forces to drive consensus on technology and security issues. So he knows that this working group saved money because there were miscommunications and they were just doing, different groups were doing whatever they wanted, but he doesn't know how much money was saved. He's not comfortable making a reasonable guess. This is still a very clear accomplishment here. He noticed a problem, created a working group, unified teams that weren't working together, and now there's consensus on technology and security issues. Okay, so we can dive into some questions here. Thank you. It's easy on the eyes, really nice resume. Appreciate that. Anyone here have any questions? Otherwise, I'll check the email and see. Someone commented, not someone, I don't know why I keep doing that to you, Marjorie. Marjorie said, I noticed city and state. Yes, you did. So that's the information that you need on the resume, city, state. You don't need a full address. I'm assuming that was the question. So hold on, I'm typing my email in the chat. It's hello@notyourmothersresume.com. Oh, Marjorie said, I don't like to put that info ever. I remove my info in job info. So you don't like to put the city and state on your resume? Correct. Okay. So in general, I put the city and state on the resume. It's usually even a required question when you're filling out job applications. You might notice if you don't have it on the resume, you'll probably end up adding it for almost every job application you enter anyways, because it won't be able to parse it from the resume. Also, when recruiters are searching for people in the applicant tracking system, sometimes we'll be looking for people who are next to certain offices. So I might put within 50 miles of, and I'll put a city and state, or I'll put a zip. So it's just another way for your resume to come up in their systems. They also might want to hire someone in the US, sometimes people from, whatever country that they're recruiting for. So it's just helpful to know, even if you're looking for a remote role, it could be helpful to show that you're in the country that the role is posted. So I recommend putting it, it hinders you when you are trying to get into a new area. Marjorie commented, I have moved, sorry, new comments are coming in. Okay, so Marjorie says it hinders you when you're trying to get into a new area. So if you are moving, instead of putting the city, state, and zip, I often like to put relocating to, and I'll put like New York, or whatever the city and state that I'm relocating to. And then oftentimes I like to put a month or a season. So I'll put like fall 2022, or I'll put December 2022. Reason being, if they're looking for someone in that new city and state, it's stronger than either A, not having anything and letting them play the guessing game, or B, just simply saying you're relocating. Because a lot of recruiters and employers have been burned by people who maybe they're relocating, or maybe they're open to relocation and they just kind of want to interview and see what happens. Or maybe they're relocating like for a boyfriend, or like something that might not necessarily come through. So just adding like a date is like, okay, this person, maybe they even have their house, like they're really relocating, like they have some things under control. So that's what I like to do if you're looking to relocate somewhere. I got a question from Elizabeth. For the summary, should it just be about us and our skills, or should it state why you want to work at that specific job? It should just be about you and your skills and like what you're good at, what sets you apart. It should not be why you want that job. Your resume should make an obvious fit for that job. So it's not the place to talk about why you want it. People used to do that in something called qualifications, but it's not how modern resumes are created. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'm not drinking wine, I promise. I really like to drink out of like Stella's
You can
wine
drink
glasses.
wine if you want to.
It's
We
water.
grown. We all grown. Somebody asked, do you look at cover letters?
Do I look at cover letters? I can count on two hands the amount of time I've read a cover letter in my 7-year recruiting career. But let me say 99.5% of people write cover letters very wrong. They started with something like, I am writing to apply to, and I just really just don't have time. So the cover letters I have written, the cover letters I've read start with an attention grabber. Do you remember when you're in middle school and they were like, start your essay with a question, or like start it with an attention grabber? Those are the cover letters I have read. I remember I got one cover letter and it started with like, I have always wanted to get into computer science since I was the age of 5 and I was gifted a Lego set. I was like, hold on, this is a story. I was like, hear about this. So recruiters don't pay a lot of attention to cover letters. There's statistics behind it. I won't quote because I don't remember, but you can make an interesting one and recruiters will read it if it's interesting.
Yeah. We had a recruiter come and tell us that obviously include a cover letter if it's required, right? Some jobs do require it, but the best time to include a cover letter is if your resume doesn't show you as an obvious fit for a position. That's what they said. Like if you're transitioning or something like that, and maybe you don't have as much experience in the field or something, that's what they threw out there. I haven't done a cover letter in so long, and I just don't want to. I'm just not doing it.
Yeah, I agree. If it asks for a cover letter, you should have a cover letter. I'm not going to say spend hours catering each cover letter to each job. Like this should not be the thing that you're like racking your brain on. Create a cover letter because you should have one. Yeah. But yeah.
This has been amazing. I saw every time I sit in a room with you and talk about resumes, I learn something new. So I really do appreciate it.
You didn't learn anything.
I definitely did. And I love the way that I specifically love the way that you reworded all of the boring typical language in resumes. It was poetic, honey. Like, oh, this this is good creative writing here. So yeah, I love this session. I love it. And I love that you called out resumes being boring, right? Like, and I also appreciate that, again, I'm not a resume expert. And so it feels good to know that some of the advice I'm giving you guys is actually echoed by resume experts, right? I'm not just telling y'all crazy stuff. Like resume experts say this too. So you guys know I always big up Chelsey whenever I talk about if you are stuck somewhere in your job search process and you feel like you're submitting your resume and you're applying for jobs, but you're not hearing back about anything. And I always say, you've got to look at where are you stuck in the process, and it might be time to call in an expert. And she's one of the experts I always mention. And so now you see why I love her so much, right? Because she's just dope. And she always provides such great information. I believe I've asked it before, but I want to go back to this recording. How do you highlight qualitative accomplishments for certain roles without neglecting any quantitative accomplishments? Did you hear that?
Yeah, sorry. Rhonda sent me her resume and I was reading it a little bit. I am sorry. So Jamisa, okay, so
oh, you know what? You did say you were going to do a live resume review. Well, look at that, and I'll try to answer. I can try to answer the question.
Okay.
So the truth is, Jamisa, you've only got a set amount of time, a set amount of space, right? So it's not necessarily, I wouldn't think of it as neglecting quantitative accomplishments. I would say, what are the most important accomplishments for what you're trying to do? Right. So as a project management manager, if I wrote down all of my accomplishments, as a project manager for over 10 years, if I wrote down all my accomplishments, it's going to be a lot because I'd be doing stuff. So really it's, you know, for the company that you're trying to apply for, what are going to, or the positions that you're trying to apply for, what are going to be the most compelling accomplishments? And I will say qualitative does jump out pretty well. Not to say that quantitative is nothing, but you got to consider, I think, what's going to be most important. And I wouldn't think about it as neglecting. It's really identifying what's going to be most impactful on your resume. What do you have to say about that? Do you agree? Would you go give her a different direction?
No, that's perfect.
Gold star. All right. You said you were going to do a resume read. Let's do it. Hey, yes. Rhonda, let's go, Rhonda.
I have Rhonda's resume here. Rhonda says, my resume makes me feel like I was trying to stuff a ton of things into one tiny bag.
That's what a lot of people are doing, though.
Okay, Rhonda.
I be doing it. You be trying to change the font between the... I would have put all the things on there.
Rhonda, your resume is good. It's above average for sure. As far as trying to stuff a bunch of things in a tiny bag, I'm going to guess that you mean different roles because one of the first things I noticed, because it's bolded, and I love that you have a headline, hospitality management, strategic planning, project management, people management, HR. So it's that thing again. If I have a problem, I'm going to hire the person who can solve the problem. If I'm looking for a plumber, I'm going to call the plumber. I'm not going to call like the general contractor who has plumbing somewhere on his resume. So your resume has to say, I can solve this problem. So a lot of people have multiple copies of their resume. You don't have to take a lot of time like editing every section, but you should at least the headline and the top should be really in line with the specific job you're looking for at that time. So you might have a couple of different versions of your resume. So you have remote worldwide. I don't love that. Typically as a recruiter, I mean, personally, I've never recruited for a role where they said, yeah, this person can reside anywhere. Sometimes it's been multiple countries. I know Labria mentioned a company that is recruiting from anywhere, but I would say it's not super common. So I would likely, especially if you are applying to roles that are in the same country that you live in, I would probably specify that. The first thing I assume when I see it is that you probably don't live where I'm trying to recruit you from. What are your thoughts on that, Labria? Because remote.
Yeah, most of the people in my community are looking for remote jobs. So I'd say a lot of people don't want to be tied down to the state that they're in. I think at the very least, people are looking to be remote in the US. At the very least. But ideally, folks are looking for remote companies that don't care where they live at all.
Okay. Do you recommend remote worldwide or?
I probably wouldn't put location at all.
No location at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
I probably wouldn't, if I were applying, I wouldn't put a location at all. I just put my phone number and email address. If it's a remote company, they don't give a shit.
Okay.
Unless on their job posting, they specified that they're looking for somebody remote in a specific state or city. City or state, I would put it then because they want to know they're not wasting their time. But unless they specify that, I wouldn't put it at all.
Good to know. Okay. So from my perspective, as a recruiter who has never worked for a company that said, yeah, anywhere in the world, that seems like a red flag to me. From the Breeze perspective, who deals with virtual positions all over the world, then that is a good idea. So maybe something to keep in mind. Maybe you have multiple copies and switch it in when you're applying to roles that are local to you. Even if you do want to work remote, I would still probably put the city and state if you are applying within the same country that you reside in.
Yeah. I was about to ask you, does your company hire remotely?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I work for
Okay.
Uber, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So she's a recruiter for a company that hires remotely, so she would know better than me.
So we recruit remotely, but never. So most of my roles are in the US. And sometimes they'll say, oh, we can do US and India because we have teammates both there, or they'll say US and like UK. It will be very specific. I haven't had a role that's like literally anywhere. So
yeah, that's why I'd say like pay attention to what the job posting says. If they say that you need to be in the US, then say you're in the US. Or if that's a job you don't want, don't apply for it. But pay attention to if they specify. If they specify that you need to be in a certain state and you're in that state, then say you're in the state. If they specify you need to be in the US and you're in the US, say that. But if they don't specify, if they're like a remote anywhere company, then I don't think it's necessary. If I don't include a location, is that a red flag?
It's been a red flag to me before, but again, I've only specifically looked for people in certain countries. But what someone will do is look at your resume and assume you're probably in New Orleans. That's what I would assume if you didn't have a location.
With the 504. Yeah, I would assume you're in the USA. And that's why I said I would just put my phone number, because that's kind of an indication as well.
Yeah,
but
well,
up to you.
And this year, so
I know we gave you very conflicting information for the most part. But if you're in the US, definitely say you're in the US if they are specifying specifically that they want people in the US. Don't voluntarily disqualify yourself.
There you go. I love that you have a summary here. One thing, it's small, but it looks a little more polished if you don't have one word floating to the next line. They call it like a tail or something sometimes. So if there's something that you can take out of there to make it not float to the next line, I personally often try to avoid leading with the number of years of experience in the summary. And I apologize again for conflicting information because I've read a lot of places that say that you should, but ageism is very real and you never quite know who the person is picturing when they open this role, but you do know that they are picturing someone. So I oftentimes don't lead with that in the summary, just because either you could have not enough experience or you could have too much experience than the person that they were picturing in their mind. So I like to let experience speak for itself. But again, that's a personal thing. A lot of people include it in the summary. So I'm not going to say that's a bad thing to do. If it's totally in line with the jobs you're applying to, and they mostly say they're looking for someone with 7+ or 10+ years of experience, leave it there. If the jobs you're applying to say 3+ years of experience, I probably would take it out. Looking at the experience section here, you did a really good job pulling out your accomplishments. I love how you bolded it. Little bit, some of the things like leaking to the second line. Again, that's a small thing, but it will make it look a little more polished. Yeah, you did a really good job. Try to make sure that there's a natural break in the page. So I would probably just get this on the first page, and I don't think it should be italics.
She said that bothered her so much. So either you're going to have to increase the margins or you're going to have to cut. So if you address her other comment about these dangling words, so like what that third bullet under the first one, where organization is a dangling word, if you can take one word out of that sentence and pull that one back up, that'll bring that bullet point back up. So you gotta earn some space somewhere. So either you get rid of those dangling lines, increase your margins, or let go of a bullet point.
I think you can.
Cuts.
I know you can do it, Rhonda.
You got this.
I think you can take something out of this to make it one word less. This seems like it has just a little more space than it needs. So, even sometimes you want a space, but maybe it doesn't have to be a 10-point space, maybe a 7.5 space. So just play around with it and just make a natural break. Yeah, this is a good resume. Anything else you want to add, Labria?
I just want to add that I bet before Rhonda sent you her resume, she thought it was shitty. And she thought it was probably not great. And I love that the first thing out of your mouth was, this is a good looking resume. So Rhonda, I hope you are proud of yourself. Pat yourself on the back. You're done good, girl.
Yes. Okay. Let me stop sharing.
People are always so hard on themselves. People are always so hard on themselves. It's like, it's better than you thought it was. It really is.
Yeah, for sure.
My education history is on the second page. Should I remove some info to have everything on just one page?
Good question. So thank you so much for asking that, actually, because I just kind of glossed past, assuming everyone knows like the standard with pages. So, there's old advice that everything has to be on one page. That was really like when resumes were printed. You don't want to walk into an interview and there's pages everywhere, or have them printing it. And it's just really not all that relevant now. So 2 pages is fine. However, things look a lot more polished if you have either natural break or closer to 2 full pages. It doesn't look great if you just have education on the second page. It almost looks accidental. So it's just one of those things about just creating a polished look. So if you have a lot to talk about on the second page, do that. If it's really just 2 or 3 lines, like, you really should try to bring it up to the first page.
Yeah. One thing I want to say about the whole 1 to 2 pages thing is I think people feel the need to put as much information in a resume as possible. And the truth is, we live in a time where you don't have to do that, because now we have LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has so many characters. So if you feel like, if you're concerned about everything's not in my resume, because your resume's really got to just be what's relevant, because my girl already said people don't glance at it and decide, right? If they want more information, they can go to your LinkedIn, and your LinkedIn can have a lot more information on it too. That's it. Fix the break. Oh, she fixed the break.
Oh, good. I need
awesome. You officially need the link to help to complete. Are you telling me you got a remote job, girl? Are you telling me you're only sending this to us so everybody else can't see it? I don't know if you want everybody to know. Someone sent a message to me just saying that she officially got a remote role. I don't know if you want to share this with everybody. Oh, you're waiting for the official letter. We'll hold off. But congratulations to making it into this round. That's so excellent. So happy to hear. Okay. You got the official letter. Okay. She sent it to everybody now. Everybody, Rhonda done got her job. I need you to make sure you post this in the community as well. Friday, we're going to do our Friday. Please make sure you post that you got you a remote job so everybody can celebrate you. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations. Girl, you've been working. Good job. Yes,
ooh. Congratulations.
We can't wait to hear what you're going to be doing with your old company. Oh, that's dope. Taking it back. Awesome. It's great to be able to work with a company you worked with before, because you've already got that kind of brand equity. You've already got rapport. You already know people. People already know you. So that's awesome. Congratulations. Oh my goodness. Okay. This has been an amazing session. Did anybody else send you a resume that you wanted to review?
No, that's it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Chelsey. Hopefully we can coerce you to hang out with us some more. I got a couple of things I want to do. I have a few things that I want to do with you. I have a few topics I want to talk about with you. So I'm gonna hit you up. Let me know if you're down. And guys, I always share Chelsey's information almost every week. Twice a week, we talk about resumes. This comes up every week. And I always say, don't discount the fact that there are experts out here to help you do this. You don't have to spin your wheels on trying to put a resume together. And I think there's different types of service that she provides as well. So she can do your resume or she can review your resume. Do you do resume reviews? Or would you rather just like wipe the slate clean and you just do it?
Yeah, I offer critiques or reviews. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to do your resume and get it reviewed and get some feedback, you can do that. Or if you can say, you know what, this ain't my ministry. I'm gonna let the people that's good at it, that's poetic, go and do this. Then you can ask Chelsey to do that as well. And don't sleep on LinkedIn, guys. I think Chelsey and I both got our jobs from LinkedIn. We didn't apply for our jobs, isn't that right? This current job. I think you told me that your previous job you got from LinkedIn.
I applied to Uber. I got a referral and I applied to Uber, but Amazon, they reached out to me.
Yeah.
Rhonda asked if I do LinkedIn. Yes, I do. I do resume, cover letter, LinkedIn.
Yeah, so she does LinkedIn. That's why I mentioned LinkedIn, because both of us, she got her previous job and I got my current job off of LinkedIn. We did not apply for those jobs. So do not sleep on LinkedIn as well. So feel free to reach out to Chelsey for that also. Chelsey, thank you for your time tonight. You're the best. She's the best smile ever. The best smile ever. Thanks for hanging out with us. You guys know how to contact her. Again, if you're watching the replay, look under this video. All of the links to her website and how to get in contact with her will be right here under this video. The Colgate smile. I love it. Is she going to do a LinkedIn meeting? We'll talk about that too. I have a list of topics I would like to hang out, bring Chelsey back to do.
Can I say something? I am terrified of public speaking. It's my biggest fear.
But you be killing it though. But you just killed it. But you just
I literally only do it when Labria asks me. And it's been 2 or 3 times, but literally, and I always make her ask me twice. I don't think I ever respond the first time. I'm like, maybe she'll just go away. And
okay. I ain't going away because the people need what you got. And I think we can all agree that you did an excellent job, especially with the organization of this conversation. And I love that it wasn't the same old typical tips, right? Like you kept it real with us. And you gave us examples. I think you did an excellent job. I think that I get being terrified of it, but I will tell you that you're good at it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we like hanging out with you. Okay, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let everybody go. I'm gonna go help my daughter unload her storage bin now. Very straightforward. Exactly. Everybody said you did a great job. I don't know what you're talking about. All right, I'm gonna post this replay. If you're watching the replay again, all of Chelsey's information will be down below. You can reach out to her. You can also follow her on Instagram at Not Your Mother's Resume. She's super fun on Instagram as well. She's always posting funny stuff and I love it. All right, y'all. I will see you guys tomorrow night for the live Q&A. Don't forget, we've got to move that to 6 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Central time. So see you guys for that. Thank you, Chelsey.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.